Is the addition of Aidan Mahaney the final piece for a run at a three-peat? You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose, visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. Well, I'm joined by Tobias Bass of The Athletic. I have to ask him right off the bat, do you feel that the final edition of Aidan Mahaney makes UConn's three-peat legitimate right off the bat?
I think it's definitely possible. That would be crazy one to see that if they could, even if they got to the championship, that would be amazing. But I think it's a big piece for them. I mean, you get Liam and Aidan pretty much in like a 3-4 day span.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they have a chance. I think they definitely have a chance.
Yeah, and I also would be remiss to say we just got a word today from a bunch of sources that Hassan Diarra is back. So you have your point guard, that's going to I don't know if they're going to do. I'll ask you that question. They had him as a six man, won sixth man of the year in the Big East. He clearly can start if they needed him to. But Dan Hurley was asked about that right off the bat. And do you think Ahmad Noel starts and Hassan Diarra comes off the bench, or do you think that's kind of a competition? Like, where do you feel that will end up?
I think it'll definitely be a competition, but it wouldn't surprise me if Diarra came off the bench. I think he's really good in that role. It's like if you're don't quit happy. If you're happy,
Yeah.
don't quit there. If you're successful, he's playing. I don't know how many minutes he played, but he was finishing games sometimes. So I think, and he's a smart kid. I don't think that he would even be opposed to doing that.
Yeah, I think they probably offer him the opportunity to compete for that starting role, right? And then just got to let the chips fall where they may. That's a great comment. I like that. I may have to use that. Don't quit happy. I like that phrase.
Yeah.
Well, listen, right off the bat, our sponsor FanDuel's odds to win the national title, UConn jumped into a tie with Kansas. Do you agree with these numbers off the bat? You have Kansas as the co-favorite with Connecticut so far. Then you have Duke at third, and then it goes Houston, North Carolina. Would you agree with that number right off the bat?
I'd probably put Houston in, if not first, definitely in that, I guess, a tie. Duke, I mean, they're so young. They're bringing in, 6 freshmen?
Right,
Granted,
right.
and Cooper Flagg's amazing. I get it. I've seen those kids play for a while. They're going to be really good. But in, 20 years, you've only seen, one team with all freshmen go to a championship and win, or even finish, to be that high. And I was in high school then when that happened. So, it's preseason stuff, but I think Houston should definitely be in that 1A, 1B category.
Well, let's pivot back to the Aidan Mahaney news. How do you feel he fits in terms of where this team is going? I have him talk to a friend of mine today. I feel like he is a mixture of Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton. I don't think he's one or the other. I think he's a good combo guard.
Yeah.
How would you categorize him? Feel free to disagree with me. I'm curious your thoughts.
I think he's a little bit naturally just gifted than Spencer, but just in a slide on Spencer because he was great. I mean, he was a really good player. I just think he has a little bit more natural gifts. Where I want to see is he going to be able to get in the stance and guard? That's what I want to see, because at St. Mary's, things can get kind of wild defensively sometimes, and sometimes he wasn't the best at being able to keep guys in front of him. So I do want to see Hurley's going to be on him hard. I think he knows that, and I think Hurley ended up making him a better player, because I know he wants to get to the NBA. So he's going to have to guard. That league's really good. They're going to attack him early, and they should. So he's going to have to get in the stance and defend. So that's going to be the biggest difference, because offensively, we know that he can score. We know that he can do things with the ball in the stance. But if he wants to be a complete player and UConn wants to win 3 in a row, he's going to have to defend.
Yeah, that's people ask me that all the time. All these guys you're talking about, can they defend? And I always say, if Dan Hurley doesn't think you're going to defend, he's probably not bringing you in. So maybe he probably has to work on it, but I would imagine they feel confident that he'll be okay. So my question to you is, you've been covering this for a while. So You had Kobe Brea in, you had Aidan Mahaney in. Put yourself in that war room. Do you feel like they had conversations and said, look, because everyone wants to spin in their own fan base that, we got our guy or we didn't miss on anybody. We just picked who we wanted, right? And I feel like UConn's in that position because they are kind of running college basketball at the moment. Do you feel as if it was more of a fit issue where they felt like, Aidan Mahaney is the guy and Kobe Brea would be a nice piece, but Aidan's more of a complete player? That's my take on it. What's your take on that?
I agree. I think that he's just a more complete player, and I think they got probably the better player. I think so. So I mean, and it's a situation. I mean, it's a great situation to have. We got to essentially pick between which one that we wanted. And you end up getting, I think, in my opinion, probably the more better player. So I think he can just do a little bit more. So I like what they did, and it probably came down to a situation. Mahaney, he kept his recruitment pretty quiet as far as we knew the visits and stuff like that, but no one really kind of had a lead on where he was going. I had heard Virginia, I had heard other schools, so
Sure.
up until the final hour, we no one really knew. So I think that kind of one of those things like, hey, you visit everywhere else, you want to be a Husky or not, and I think he ended up coming down to that. He ended up making a decision.
Yeah, no, I wanted to get your take on this because I found it really funny. I texted with a former D1 high major basketball friend of mine. I'll keep him anonymous, but I said, what's the percentage of players who are literally just trying to grab one last payday because they're likely not an NBA player in the transfer portal? What do you think his percentage wrote back to me?
Oh God, it had to be in the 90. Absolutely had to be.
99%.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, there's only been 4,600 players ever to play in the NBA. So it's crazy when you think about like how long the NBA's been around. Most of these dudes, they're not pros. And I mean,
Right.
99% of them are not pros. So sure, if you're a kid now and someone wants to pay you 3, 4, 500 grand, I'm all for it. I am all for it if you can get it.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought that up is because UConn Twitter is a funny place, and everyone was all in on Kobe Brea until they weren't, right? And so everyone heard some of the things he said. He's like, well, I want to go to a place that I can showcase my game. And automatically everyone was just like, well, he's not for us because he's a me guy. And I honestly think Kobe Brea is not a me guy. I think he is a kid who is a borderline professional basketball player. Probably the only chance he's going to get to see this sum of money is with likely what I've heard today is likely going to Kentucky. So good for him. Happy for him. I'm happy we got Aidan Mahaney, and I think we're in a better position, as you just said, to three-peat. So I think everyone should be happy going forward.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's no slight at Kobe. I think he's a good player. He'll be successful at Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's where he goes. But you got to do what's best for you. And I think in the offense that Pope runs, he's going to be getting wide open, just looks all the time. Just the offense that they run. I think it's a great fit for him. And then he has some guys on this team like Lamont Butler. He's fairly low maintenance, so some of those shots are probably going to go to him. So it's even just looking at it for this long term, he's going to get a lot of shots, open shots, and I think he made a good decision.
All right, well, we'll get into is UConn the preseason number one now with Tobias Bass after this. Let me tell you about a recent experience with buying tickets. Ever had one of those frustrating moments where you're trying to snag tickets for an MLB game? I sure have, whether it's uncertainty about seat quality, struggling to find last-minute tickets, or just not finding any good deals. But here's the game changer. Game Time is now authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Seriously, this app gets you tickets. Getting you tickets is a breeze. Plus, the prices actually drop as game time approaches. It's like getting rewarded for procrastinating. I've been using Game Time for a while now, and let me tell you, it's life-altering. You can browse through Major League Baseball games and other hot events, snagging killer last-minute deals, and even double-check your views from your seat before you buy. And the best part, you get all-in pricing with no hidden fees at your checkout. So if you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions may apply. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we're back with Tobias Bass of The Athletic. Never too early to rank your preseason top 5, I guess. We saw that the betting odds are even with Kansas or UConn. Let's stir up some controversy. Who's the preseason #1? Is it Kansas or is it UConn?
Well, if I didn't have to pick, I would pick neither. If I had to pick my
Okay.
own team.
Who's
But
your #1? Is it Houston?
You'd be Houston. You bring back all of your players but one, and then you bring in Milo's Arsenal will be back healthy. JoJo Tugler will be back healthy. Yeah, I think they would be my one.
Do you think, and not to go in the Houston track, but do you feel like do I know or do we know for a fact, is Jamal Shed coming back? Is that he's in?
He's gone. He's gonna go.
Okay, he's gone. So do you think the loss of him, you still think they're #1 in preseason, huh?
I think so. As of today, I think so.
Interesting. Do you think the reason why you're not? Do you think the reason why you're not ranking either Kansas or UConn higher is just the continuity aspect? Because we all saw Jamal Shed, what he did. I mean, they're in the Final Four if he's not hurt, right? I don't think they lose to Duke. That's interesting. Okay. So let's pivot to UConn versus Kansas. Do you think who has done a better job? Do you think the Kansas of the world, or even Calipari with Arkansas kind of getting a bunch of guys? Like, what would your preference be? I shouldn't even say who did the better job, because it's all opinion anyway. So in your opinion, from a roster construction perspective, do you like the way UConn does it, or do you like the way some of these teams do, where like, we're just going to get as much talent as possible and try to figure it out on the fly?
I like the way UConn does it. I think it's just better because, I mean, if this was, 2K, sure, we could do what other teams are doing. We're just getting the best teams together and we're just playing basketball, but that's not how it works. You have to put pieces together. Like, if the fit is more important than the talent, I'm always big on that. You have a guy that fit together, you're going to be successful. That's because we grab a bunch of, highly ranked, highly touted guy. That always doesn't work. We've seen it in the past. It's hard because some of those guys, they have to sacrifice certain things that they didn't have to do in the past. Some of them, their roles shrink. You have dudes that are starting at high major schools, they probably come off the bench. So
Right.
Whether they're being told that or not, you only can start 5, and based on Kansas roster, you can pretty much kind of guess who the 5 are going to be, pretty much. So does that 6 man? Is he comfortable doing that? Is he comfortable taking, instead of him taking 12 shots a game, he might take 6. He might take 7.
Right.
Is he comfortable with that? So I like the way that UConn does it. I think that they put, again, another great roster. They're going to have a couple guys to fill in here and there, but for what they have, I think you have to have a good combination of both the transfers and guys you're developing, and I think they have a good combination of that.
So Alex Caravan is still testing the NBA waters. I feel like most people believe he'll be back, right?
Yeah.
So let's say he is. Let's say he's back. That means UConn's got one roster spot to fill. Where do they go?
I'm always, when the ballpark is getting as many bigs as you can, because things happen. Guys get hurt, foul trouble, whatever the case may be. I'm always going with that. So they can maybe find them another big. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah. Do you think they go transfer portal route, or are there guys in the recruiting trail, freshman wise, just to kind of add another young guy to the mix? What would your preference be?
Got to get one in the portal. That's the issue. If there aren't that many good bigs in the portal, that's the problem. But if you can get one, he's comfortable with, those 12, 13, 14 minutes a game. He's 6'9", 6'10", or 6'11". Cool with that. Young big, it takes him a long time to develop. So if you got one, he's probably not going to play. We need somebody that can probably come in and contribute in the pinch.
Yeah, I mean, I've said I think they're going with a 3-headed monster, because I don't think a guy like Yusef Singari with his kind of pedigree is staying with UConn if he's not. I wouldn't say Hurley doesn't promise people minutes, but if he's not at least promised the opportunity to get some minutes, because they do, they brought in Tarris Reed Jr. and obviously Samson Johnson's back. So how do you see that rotation? Since you talked about bigs, if they do get another big towards the end of the portal or the end of the the season here in about a month or so, what do you think that rotation looks like? Forget about if they have anybody. If they just have those 3 guys, what does that rotation look like if you're coaching the team, who starts? What are the minutes looking like?
I think again it'll be them definitely battling it out. I mean, Sampson gave you good minutes last year. Tarris, I believe he started at Michigan, so I think they're gonna have to battle it out. I wouldn't probably be opposed to them starting Tarris. Um, I wouldn't be opposed to that because I think he can kind of do. He's just a massive kid. That kid's huge. I think that he can do a little bit of things on both ends of the floor. But I think you're gonna have to just stagger the minutes. They're big guys. They get tired. So someone's gonna get in foul trouble. That's just how it is,
Yeah.
especially in that league. It's physical. So I think everyone's gonna. I think the minute gap, it probably won't be a significant difference between Tarris and Sanford. I don't think it'll be a significant difference.
You think they're pretty comparable?
I think they're comparable. I think Tarris a little bit. I think he's a little bit more naturally talented. I think so.
Yeah.
But I think because even
Okay.
Sampson last when he would come off the Energizer Bunny. He would come off the bench. He was blocking shots. He was super fun, super engaged. He would come into those 7 minutes. He would just wreck hell, then come and sit down. They'll put him back in for another 5 minutes. He would destroy everything. Then he would go back. So I think that he's good in that role.
No, I think you bring up a good point. I wonder because we talked about Hassan Diarra and like what's his role going to be. He was a 6 man.
Yeah.
Does Samson Johnson come off the bench again as kind of like the backup center? Like as if just because you played on a team as a national champion and God bless him, he was great, but he did play a great role. Like everyone has
Absolutely.
a role on this UConn team. So Dan, that's a really good point that I really didn't think about. I wonder if he is going to be the backup and if he's okay with that. You know what I mean? Obviously he's sticking around. So that's interesting. You think there's actually some thought to Tarris starting and then Sampson coming off the bench?
Yeah, and this is me having no info at all. This is just me just thinking about it. I could definitely see it. I mean, and then it's like Sampson, you're a champion. This is our culture. Is this? This is what it is. If you want to win, are you cool with putting this above yourself? And I think that he is. I think that he is. And again, he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. He's going to be playing more minutes than he did last year. So can he really complain? Probably not.
No, I think you're pretty spot on. So I think no, that's a great point. Well, before we get into the next segment, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on TV all day? Have you turned down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories of the day. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we got to pause, talk more about, and I'm going to pivot to the last segment of the day, which is the transfer portal recap, because it's closing tomorrow. Doesn't mean people can't move, but we'll talk about that after this. All right. Pause the game. You know what you're saying. Flag on the play. I already talked about Monopoly Go, but there's so much good stuff in this game. We'll check in. Pause here for a second. Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together, build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much more to get. Unique stickers you can trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include the own unique mind games like digging for treasures or robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, go download it now for free or on the Google Play or App Store. Game on. We don't need that many boxes to talk to Tobias Bass here. How are you, man? Let's talk about the portal news. We talked about Koby Brea likely going to Kentucky. I don't know if that's not official yet, right? But I feel like that's likely now that okay. So we got Koby going to Kentucky potentially. I was surprised with one because I had gotten some alerts down here in North Carolina that Jonas Adu was a target from North Carolina and he's going to Arkansas. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, when Cal gets you in the room, you're going. It's hard. It's hard to tell him no. It's just really hard. He has a type of charisma, type of charm that kids just really want to play for him. And just the system in which he plays, his bigs have done well. A lot of them are making money. Some of them are playing
Yep.
tonight. So so he I like the fit, and they're going to add a couple more guys too.
I think he's done a great job so far. I mean, I know that we have to see what it looks like on the court, but he, like you said, you get guys in the room with Coach Cal, and he's pretty charismatic. I covered one game at Rupp Arena, and he saw my last name, and he looked at me and said, "Huh, Italian in the South, huh?" Like joking around with me, and I said, "Yeah, man." He was like, I like to see it. He's like strength in numbers, and he laughed and he walked away. I was just like, dude, this guy is he's not what everyone thinks he is. And maybe he is. I mean, but I had one interaction with him, and it was positive. But so I digress. But no, I think UNC news. Cade Tyson is a Tar Heel. Talk about what that does for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Really, really, really good player. He's versatile. I was very curious. I was very curious to see where he was going to end up when he first got in the portal. I know Tennessee was recruiting him very, very hard. I actually thought he was actually probably going to go there, but he ends up going to North Carolina. I think he's a great fit for them, especially what they like to do. He brings some versatility. He can play that tweener four role, can shoot the ball. I like the fit for those guys.
Yeah, no, and I've talked about him being the type of player that UConn should look at just because of being a wing, great shooter, older guy, mid-major player, but really solid. Trying to bring up one of our nemesis here in the Big East, Providence. They added a ton of guys. What can you talk to me about some of the guys that Providence has brought in? Delusional fan base. We love them here in the Northeast. They're a little cray-cray, but they're funny. I have to give them that. Very, very funny fan base. What do you see from the Providence Friars?
Yeah, I mean, they lost, I believe, 3 guys. One of them was a top 30, top 40 recruiting Galway Duval. So they had to replace it. They want to get back to the tournament. They want to get there. So you're going to have to bring in some older guy. I like what they did bringing in Bensley Joseph from Miami. Wesley Cardet can really, really play. I think he went to school in Illinois, Chicago State, I believe. Yeah, but they brought in some good players. So, and I love coaching. He's a really, really good guy. He's a great coach. I think that they'll be back and they'll have a good season in Providence this year.
Yeah, no, I listen. I think the dichotomy that UConn fans have is we didn't like Ed Cooley, so he's gone, and then now we love Kim English, and we still hate their fans. But I mean, listen, he's such a good dude, dynamic, such an awesome guy. So it's hard to wish them well, but I do, unfortunately. it's just because I want him to succeed. I think they brought it. They brought in what I actually liked the Abdul Rahim signing because I think that gives them some good size on the wing. Christ Esan Daku, he was a guy that I was told this is knowledge from UConn fans as they heard me talk about this, that he was almost a done deal at UConn right off the bat. Like he wanted to come here, and I'm not saying this to piss off Providence fans because this happens, but UConn, because we've talked about this, they're very picky right now. They wanted to kind of see who else was in the portal, potentially bring in a guy that they chose. But I mean, think about it. He has the exact same size and build of Tarris. They're 6'10", 6'11", both about 260, and they have time left on their college career. It wasn't like a one and done guy. Right. So, what's the difference between a Christ and Tarris Reed?
Again, I think it's just the natural talent, the natural gifts of what Tarris can do. I mean, he was a top 25 recruit, top 30 recruit, something like that. So 30. some of the stuff that he can do, to his ability just to get up and off the ground just so quickly, I think it's just next level stuff. So and then again, they're both young, but I like what UConn did, because I was talking to a couple of buddies about this. Some of these players, they're not finished products. So I said you should get a younger player like a Tarris.
Yeah.
Keep him for 2 or 3 seasons, and you can just keep getting better. So you're already helping yourself with the next recruiting class, the next recruiting cycle. So next year they're like, oh, we don't need another big because we got Tarris. We don't need that because he'll be back. So I think it was a smart move.
Yeah, because you lose Samson Johnson. I would imagine he's a senior. I think he has 1 year of eligibility, but he may stay. But so the potential is you may lose a big, but then you have a guy like Singari and Tarris. Also, what I thought too is you really have to focus on even the guard situation. Kobe's a 1 year guy; he'd be gone. And then you bring in a guy like Aidan, who we both agree is the better player, but he has 2 years of eligibility. So
Yeah.
you're building, and you don't always have to find these guys to kind of plug and play. You pick and choose when that's the time. And with a guy like Liam McNeeley, do you think he's a one and done, or do you think he stays for a couple of years? That was a curveball. Sorry.
Good question. I think he's definitely a pro. I can see the 2 years though.
Okay.
I can see because cerebral player. He's gonna have to show like how he can be able to get how he can score. He's gonna make shots. He's gonna do things. I can see two and done though.
Okay, that makes sense. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
What if you had to pick a team or a coach who has won the portal, not named Dan Hurley? That's too easy. It's a UConn show. Who won the portal? It's not done, but the window is about to close.
I mean, I think Coach Woodson at Indiana, he did a great job. I mean, man, Kanan Carlisle, Miles Rice, Omar Ballo, Luke Good, you keep Renau, you keep Mbako. I mean, dude, like you're that now the pieces are gonna have to fit. It kind of
Yeah.
worries me. Will they be able to shoot the ball well enough? But just on paper, I mean, that's one of the best starting five, if not the best starting five in the country. So, I mean, he did a great job. This is a team, didn't make the tournament. They struggled. They're trying to get back to, basketball's better when Indiana's good. So they're trying to get back to that.
Tobias, you didn't do this on purpose, but you stumbled upon the funniest inside joke of UConn Twitter. You know what it is?
What's that?
Well, and it's one of your colleagues. I don't know how well you know him, but Jeff Goodman last year said, you could argue that Indiana has a better starting five than UConn, that has more talent. So the fact that you said that, I'll have to cut that and just put it out there just as a joke, because
no, for sure.
He gets torched for that every game or every day, and I just saw another guy get blocked from him the other just because he just probably just was like, look, I'm just over it. I'm just so annoyed by how many UConn folks bring that up, but I appreciate that. That's very funny. No, and but I don't think you're wrong. Like in this case, I don't think you're wrong. Like that, they did do a good job. I think what you said though is he kept guys from leaving too. Talk about what that takes, not just Mike Woodson, but just college basketball in general. Like, what is that? Does that take a combination of re-upping some NIL packages plus reassurance? Is that what that takes? Yes.
Yeah, definitely that. And then, I think the trust and faith that they have in them, it's like, again, they're putting winning above themselves. Because like Malik and they could have went anywhere. Like especially Malik, he could have went. Everyone would be recruiting that guy if he wanted to leave. So to get him to stay, I think he averaged like 15.5 a game. Like to get that dude to stay, and we're going to add 2 really good guards. Your touches are going to come a little bit easier now. You add in Ballo. It might help him defensively. You might not have to be the best shot blocker on the team because we have a guy that can do that as well. So I think it's just the trust in Woodson that they have, and then the NIL definitely helps. That definitely matters. So, but yeah, I mean, kudos to Woodson for doing that, because I wasn't expecting to land all those guys early in the portal, but he did a great job.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it's funny, like, when those names started to drop, it just didn't feel like Indiana picks, but just like that's good on him, right? Just like I have a hard time seeing some of those guys in the Indiana jersey, but it is what it is, man. I think he's done a really good job, and I appreciate your perspective. So one thing we always talk about is Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now and available on the free Fire TV channels app. Tobias, before we go, talk to where people can find your stuff at The Athletic, and also kind of remind people, like, this transfer portal stuff is still very much open. The window closes, but we're going to see a lot of movement essentially through May.
So first, you can follow me on Twitter at Tobias_Bass. That's TOBIAS_Bass, like the fish. I'll be doing a story. Probably the portal closes tomorrow, so maybe Thursday or Friday I have another story out, like a what I'm hearing story. I posted one a week ago, just about where some of these guys may be visiting, where they might be going, things like that. But yeah, the portal's still open. I mean, you saw JT Toppin got in today. He'll immediately be one of the best, highly coveted guys in the portal. He already has a short list of 4. Their schools can get in, but I heard he already has a short list of 4, so that process may not take too long. But
Who's
there's
that
going to be
list?
some bigger.
Break some news.
Can't share the list yet. Can't share the list yet. But it'll be out very soon.
Okay.
But there's going to be some other big names getting in there. Some of these guys are going to be all conference players. Some of these guys may even be potential future pros. So I think between today and early tomorrow, I think you may see some names really get in there that may shock a couple of people. So it's going to be fun.
Okay.
It's going to.
Interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate you, Tobias. We'll be looking for you, and just keep feeding us UConn fans the good news, and we'll be okay. Like we keep getting players that we want. It's I don't feel like we're missing out. So, but anyway, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Tobias Bass, I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising, and as always, go Huskies.